All right, this is take 3959, and it's going to be my final one, I promise. My name is Victoria McCoy. I'm a biology licensure major. I took the turn towards education when I discovered that there's a shocking decline in scientific interest, specifically among minorities and females. So, my personal goal now is to spark student interest among younger generations so that we can have more science majors. I'm very excited to become a teacher. It's obvious that classroom management is a very important part of teaching. So I'm pretty excited to give this PowerPoint presentation on a unique classroom management model. So moving on to the actual PowerPoint. The title of my PowerPoint is Beyond Discipline from Compliance to Community. The name of the model that this PowerPoint covers is called Beyond Discipline. This particular theory was developed by a man named Alfie Kohn. He's a very unique theorist who uses his own personal opinions to develop unique classroom management plans based on child psychology. He has written a number of books, but his number one book is titled Beyond Discipline from Compliance to Community. There are two editions. The first one was written in 1996, and the second edition was written in 2006. I believe both editions are quite similar to each other. The release of the second edition was just like a 10-year anniversary thing. I actually purchased Beyond Discipline, the second edition, on Amazon for $17 after shipping. So it's a short read. It's not too bad. There's some things I like and other things I don't, but that's just a matter of opinion. Alfie Kohn is a retired teacher. He currently lives in Boston, Massachusetts. He has two kids and a wife. He writes about education and behavior. He has guest starred on radio and TV programs. He's written multiple books that have been written in about 20 different languages. He speaks to both educators and parents. Because something unique about a lot of his ideas in his Beyond Discipline theory is that a lot of the concepts can not only be applied in a classroom, but can be applied at home as well when raising a child. Beyond Discipline was written in 1996. It challenges the widely accepted practices of classroom management. It contrasts the idea of doing things to students, and he suggests that teachers should work with students instead of telling them what to do. So, for example, instead of saying, hey, sit down, a teacher should be like, what are you doing wrong? What should we be doing? How are you going to fix this problem? Ask really off-the-wall abstract questions rather than directly tell the student what to do. The theory contradicts the practice in which the teacher is in control of the classroom. Everything is student-centered, but that's common sense at this point for our class specifically. And the theory ostracizes bribing students with rewards to promote good behavior. Alfie Kohn believes that bribing students with rewards diminishes the student's ability to effectively learn material. For example, if a student is used to receiving a reward for doing good work, and doesn't receive a reward or can no longer expect a reward after doing work, then that student is less likely to perform as well as he or she has been, or is less likely to perform at all, if you get what I mean. Alfie Kohn states children's needs are alive. So what he basically means by this is that children's needs are the exact same as adult needs. Adults do not like being told what to do, and they love being able to state their own opinions, specifically without being judged. Well, children are the exact same way. He believes that children's emotional needs to be recognized. They need to be believed in, they need to be forgiven, and they need to feel comfortable, and they need compliance from their role models. Their role models are adults. If they do not feel accepted by the adults who are closest to them, then it's going to be very difficult for that child to socially develop and gain self-confidence and self-respect. He believes punishment does not help a person understand what he or she has done wrong. A good example of this would be from something that Alfie Kohn actually stated in a video I watched. He said, for example, a little girl kicks her younger sister. Well, in any case, a parent would send that child off to isolation and time out. While in isolation, all that child would do would build resentment towards her sister and feel very misunderstood. Alfie Kohn believes that in a case like that, instead of being sent off to time out alone to reflect upon her actions, she should be questioned. Okay, what emotional purge encouraged this child to act this way? And parents should ask the child, why did you do this? What should you do next time you feel like this? Things like that. So basically, children have the same motivational needs that adults have. They need to be emotionally addressed. They need to be able to state their feelings and their opinions about the situation or the problem at hand. The theorist, this model states that the traditional method produces temporary conformity from students. Reward and punishment routines are ineffective and counterproductive, and students should be allowed to participate in deciding the resolutions to problems. So what Kohn means by this is that instead of the teacher creating the rules or the guidelines for issues, the students should be allowed to solve their own problems. For example, if a student throws a piece of paper at another student, okay, in any given case, the teacher would be like, you can't do that. Don't do that. I'm writing you up, so on and so forth. Instead, the teacher should be like, okay, John, why'd you throw the paper? John, what should you have done instead? John, how are you going to fix this? Different things like that. Key is being abstract about it and focusing on the child's emotional state at the current time. It's a very psychological model, basically. He specifically emphasizes creating student-centered communities in which the learning environment reflects the topic, the people, and the things that students create. Any classroom should be a self-governing community that acknowledges the well-being of the student and the teacher, in which there's no judgment and there's no fear of being judged. It should be a very democratic community. Every classroom should be. To encourage students to state their own feelings in order to help the classroom run smoothly to encourage effective learning. I could not find any supporting research, and beyond that, I couldn't find any primary resources that contained comments about educators who have tested out Alfie Kohn's beyond discipline model of classroom management. So I thought outside the box, and I was like, what about blogs? And I found quite a few blogs that talked about Alfie Kohn's ideas. There are not very many teachers that agree with Alfie Kohn, that's for sure. A lot of them believe that he is overly opinionated and lacks evidence that his suggestions for classroom management actually work. He avoids using statistics to support his theory. He is extremely opinionated. He focuses on basically just the psychology of students and how people act and behave in general. Not necessarily based on their external environments, though. He focuses on what's already obvious. All of his ideas are just too abstract to directly apply to any given case or many given cases in a classroom. But he primarily focuses on leaving judgment behind. This I agree with. It's very important to create a classroom where students don't feel judged and where students respect each other's opinions and where the teacher respects every student's opinions and acknowledges every student's ideas. In a classroom, the student's role is to decide the consequences of their chosen behavior for themselves. For example, in this picture here, this student is about to tap this kid in the back of the head with a pencil. So the teacher, after discovering that this would happen, should address the student who touches the kid with the pencil. Okay, why did you do this? What compelled you to do it? How are you going to fix this situation? Different things like that. Rather than, don't tap him with the pencil, now I'm going to write you up. That's the teacher making the decision, not the student making the decision. What should we do about this is what the teacher should be asking himself or herself, basically. So moving on with the teacher's role, teacher should recognize what the students need. The teacher should specifically ask, how do I get this student back on task, rather than what is the task at hand. The teacher should ensure that the classroom is organized and decorated to provide a comfortable environment for community to build upon. So it's important to maintain that democratic community in order for effective learning to take place. And so on and so forth. And here's a cool picture of a teacher smiling. So in the case of applying the model in the classroom, the teacher should allow students to make daily decisions to maintain a democratic community. Teachers should enable students to learn which behaviors are appropriate by guiding them, and the teacher should have frequent discussions about the expectations and standards of behavior. I spoke to she's a biology, chemistry, and algebra teacher. She currently teaches only freshmen and sophomores, and she has 20 years experience of teaching. And every semester on the first day of school, instead of passing out papers that list classroom rules and procedures, she allows the students to create the classroom rules and procedures. And most of the times, the rules and procedures that the students choose is what she would originally have passed out to them. So students understand what is right. It's just the fact of applying it that is quite difficult. And Alfie Kohn suggests that should be tackled by putting yourself in the student's shoes emotionally. How is this student feeling at this certain time, and why? Basically, so some advantages. It recognizes the negative consequences of the traditional system of rewards and punishments. It encourages educators to reassess why discipline plans are established in a classroom. And it recommends organizing class meetings to allow students to speak their suggestions. So it certainly encourages collaboration among students, which is a very positive note, because if any student is going to become more sociable and gain more acceptable morals, then that student would have to practice working with other students on problems and working with other individuals on solving issues. So some disadvantages of the models include the fact that it's an idealistic advance toward dealing with the discipline issues of students. There's not a step-by-step plan involved, and additional exploration is required to fully understand the context of a problem. So basically, there's no physical, real-world plan involved with this theory. It's all just a matter of opinion, and specifically psychological opinion. You should remember that with this model, it's basically all about creating a democratic community in which every individual gets to state his or her own opinion, and every individual is entitled to how he or she emotionally feels about a given situation. So, for example, if a teacher hands out a activity and students aren't on task, no one's learning anything, no one understands anything, at the end of the activity, the teacher would stand up at the front of the classroom and say, okay, this did not go as planned today, that's for sure. So what if you were to repeat this activity, what would you like to happen? What should happen differently? Like, how should it be planned differently so that you can benefit and so that you will have fun and so that you can concentrate on this and actually learn something? So it's just a matter of allowing everyone to state their opinion, allowing everyone to make a decision about basically everything. So my personal reaction, it's certainly an exceptional approach to dealing with student behavior rather than focusing on straightforward, well-known classroom management punishment reward system. It focuses on the emotional needs of students and creating that environment that allows everyone to speak up. The theory focuses on why students behave based on their psychology. It helps teachers focus on helping students learn self-control and discipline. Therefore, by doing so, they would benefit socially and morally. And I believe it would require a significant amount of practice behalf on the teacher and figuring out how to implement the ideas involved with this theory into a classroom. So by using this model in my own classroom, I would just be a little bit less direct, I guess. Rather than say, stop throwing your paper, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? Come on, let's fix this problem, or something like that, something quite similar. I would search for the issue in a very calm manner. In general, it's important not to yell. Do not yell at all in front of your students. Don't break out. Don't break down. Whatever you do, it certainly makes you look very vulnerable, and it just affects your relationship with your students as a whole, which would subsequently affect the learning environment of your classroom. So, but that's the general idea about Alfie Kohn and his theory. So I hope y'all learned something, and I hope y'all really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this theory, and I had a blast presenting it to y'all. So enjoy the remainder of the semester and keep moving forward.